So I'd like to start with a word of prayer. So if you join me. Dear Lord, thank you for giving us a chance here to be able to read this book. And I pray that it could open up our minds, that maybe we could have a paradigm shift and we could really gain an understanding of how to reach people a little bit better. And we want to do it because we love your kingdom, we love your kingdom principles, and we want to share those with others. So be with us right now in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So I will start just for today only. Well, obviously, because there's only an introduction for one day, but I'll read the introduction as well as chapter 1. And again, once we get finished with this book, there are some Bible studies in the back that you can take advantage for yourself, or if you want to go ahead and use the principles from this book and study it with somebody else, like a friend or a neighbor, that's what it's there for as well. So we won't be doing the studies here unless there's some crazy demand for it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The title of this book is Let's Get Personal: 7 Helpful Keys for Sharing Good News in a Post-Pandemic, Post-Christian World by Roger Hernandez. And we'll be reading the introduction. Page 5. A personal invitation is the reason why you're reading this book. How did it happen? Well, let me tell you. In the 1950s in Cuba, Juan Hernandez was a barber from a military family and also a baker. His entrepreneurial spirit allowed Juan, along with his wife, Estela, and their 6 children to have a life they enjoyed on a beautiful island in the Caribbean that was more prosperous than many others in the region. One day, all the life they knew came crashing down, and the country was divided and disheartened. People were concerned about the direction of the government, but Juan was a steady influence in the community. Some friends of the family invited one of their sons, then another, to come to a small but growing church community not too far from their home. Their children went, loved the community, and in turn invited Juan and Estela, who joined soon after. Their newfound faith was life-changing. They wanted everyone in their home to experience the transforming power of the gospel. The next step was to invite the rest of their children. Pasqua, who was one of the youngest, was invited to come to church, but he declined. His lifestyle was more important to him than religion. Baco, as they called him, a name based on a Greek god who drank too much wine, lived up to his nickname. He drank heavily, smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day, and had a big Cuban cigar almost every day. Juan didn't just push his son, he prayed. He gave Pascual a Bible and asked him if he would read it. He did. At night, Baco would close his door, light up a cigarette, and read the Bible. I have often said that the most dangerous thing for your bad habit is in the Word of God. That's why the devil wants you away from the Bible, because the Bible keeps you away from the devil. Ooh, that was a good one. Baco learned that God changes individuals, and frankly, he was tired of his lifestyle, the weekly bar fights, and the 3 times he had to go to the hospital to be treated for issues related to his drinking. He decided, I want Jesus, and I want to get baptized in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So he made his way down to the church on a Friday night and noticed that more than 30 individuals were already there for what seemed to be some type of rehearsal. The people at church were practicing for the baptism they were going to participate in the next morning. He did what he felt was the right next step. He joined the line and asked the pastor to baptize him as well. To his surprise, the pastor responded, "Who are you?" "No, you may not be baptized tomorrow, Pasquale tried to explain that he had been studying the Bible for more than a year, to no avail. The pastor explained that he would have to study with someone from the church for a long time before being allowed to become a member. What happened next was very unusual. Pasquale said goodnight. He went home, went to sleep, came back to church the next morning, and snuck into the line of people to be baptized. When the pastor realized what was happening, he was already in the pool. Ooh, what's going to happen next? Pasquale was baptized. Some months passed, and a recruiter from an Adventist college came to the congregation, asking if anyone was interested in going to the Adventist college. Pasquale had been feeling the call to take his responsibility deeper, so he went to study theology at Colegio de las Antillas. There, he met and married Anna. They had a baby. Hello, I'm Roger, and I'm that baby. I became a pastor, got married to Kathy, had a baby. She became a pastor. She had a son who went into building things and has a passion for blessing people, and 2 foster daughters who became like our own, rounded out our family, and improved our lives forever. This brings us to the present day. You're reading this book because someone back in the 1950s cared enough to share life and Jesus with my grandparents. It changed the trajectory of our lives forever. I have made it my life's mission to pay the favor forward. For decades, I have shared the gospel all over the world as a pastor, a church planter, conference and union departmental leader, and a neighbor and friend. I remain convinced that the best way to share Christ in a post-pandemic, post-Christian culture is still the same as it was in the 1950s or 1150s or AD 50. Simply said, it's just one beggar telling another where to find bread. This book is designed to help you understand the personal privilege you and I must share. Adventism can be summarized in 2 words: helpful truth. Those are the 2 words right there. Helpful truth. Both of those words are significant. A truth that is unhelpful is just intellectual assent, but no life change. Helpful accolades that make you feel good but aren't based on truth will leave you with terrific self-esteem but little transformation. It's the combination of the 2 elements that changes a person in God's way. This book has 2 parts. We'll be covering the first part, which is 7 keys in a world that no longer revolves around what happens in a building once a week. This section will help you understand and implement a faith that is too good not to share. Many years have passed since the original. I'm going to go ahead and skip the second part since we won't be covering it. It's the Bible studies there. Many years have passed since the original invitation was made to my grandfather to join a group of believers that had Jesus and his hope at the center. My grandpa is resting now, awaiting his reward. He died when he was close to 100 years of age. It's up to us now to share Jesus with as many people as we can, as effectively as we can, in as short a time as we can. Let's pause there for a moment. That was the first, the introduction there, and then we'll read chapter 1, and we'll talk a little bit more and call it a night. But what stood out to you from this first chapter? Anybody want to chime in?
Lisa said how the pastor wouldn't let him get baptized.
That's crazy.
and said it was going to take a really long time.
Yeah. And that's typically how it's done, right? Oh, you have to go through all these things. What's even crazier is that he got in line, he snuck in. That was crazy. I can imagine. I can imagine he was already in the water. What is he gonna say? No. Imagine the pastor saying no in front of the
Yeah,
congregation.
in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Or he goes up and like jumps in and goes, cannonball.
I know. That's really cool. One of the things I that really stood out to me was the fact that it all leads up to like we just had Pastor Roger Hernandez come and preach at our church, right? But that would not have happened, and we were blessed. I was blessed, that would not have happened if in 1950 that would not have happened. And even today, the people that we win today, the people that we share the gospel with today and that we share Jesus with today, who knows what the trajectory and the domino effect will be 50 years from now. So that's very powerful. Any other thoughts? All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started on chapter 1. And then there are a few discussion questions which we'll take care of. Chapter 1. We have a problem. The fastest growing religious group in North America is that of people with no religious affiliation. Pollsters call these individuals the knowns because when asked about their religious affiliation, they respond with none. So the nuns or the knowns. In the past 20 years, they have become nearly 1 of 4 people in this country, and the number is growing. By the way, just so that we are kind of acquainted here, this book was written in 2023. That's the copyright in this book. So last year, it's fresh. So when it says, just a few in the past 20 years, so you can get a little bit of context there. This phenomenon is especially noticeable among younger generations. In 2 studies conducted by both the Barna Group and USA Today, it was found that nearly 75% of young Christians leave the church after high school. Wow, that's crazy. There is a text here, 2 Timothy 3:1. It says, "You should know this, Timothy, that in the last days there will be very difficult times." It's just on the side there. Anyway, back to this stat right here about 75% of young Christians leave the church after high school. To understand this, one of the first things you must do is define reality. I like the way an ancient philosopher put it. What is. It is not what I wish it to be, not what it used to be, not what it will be. At this moment, Christianity in this world is in crisis. What is. You should be concerned, but not defeated. You must not lose faith. Some churches are reaching out to the knowns. Initiatives, strategies, and decisions leading them to Jesus and his final message for this generation are happening. People still have interest in spiritual things, but the church seems to be in a different category. There are some interesting developments. According to an article, today, 1 in 3 Gen Z adults aged 18 to 25 say they believe in a higher power. According to new polling from Springtide Research Institute, and that's up from 1 in 4 in 2021. Gen Zers and religious leaders alike tell the Post that more young people are open to spirituality, but many of them are rejecting traditional religious labels in favor of more fluid groups that consider themselves non-denominational or interdenominational, accepting to all Christian denominations, but not adhering to the dogma of any particular one. If we believe that church is the starting point, we will miss a whole generation that sees institutions as outdated and irrelevant. That's why I'm making the case in this book that we must become smaller in order to grow. Think personal, not pew. Let me start with a story that will illustrate this point more clearly. I love flying. I understand that some people see airplanes as anxiety factories. I'm not one of them. One of the benefits of flying is that you can focus on your work. I actually wrote part of this book on a plane. When our families lived in Oregon, I frequently traveled with United Airlines. I like traveling with them and their partner airlines. A few years ago, we moved to Georgia. Upon moving to Atlanta, we decided to switch airlines because United didn't have direct flights in our area. They all made stops in Charlotte, and no one wants to stop in Charlotte, at least not on purpose. Before making a decision about what airline, I did 4 things. Number 1, I checked the internet for different airline options. Number 2, I asked my friends about their experiences. Number 3, I personally tried a couple of airlines. And number 4, I flew with a friend, my best friend, my wife. While going through this process, I received a promotion from Delta Airlines in the mail, inviting me to join the frequent flyer program with a credit card subscription that significantly increased accumulated miles for future trips. In 2012, I chose Delta, and it became my preferred airline. I've been with them for more than a decade now, and while it's not perfect, they treat me well and do for me what United never did. What does this have to do with religion, Christianity, Adventism, or evangelism? I'm glad you asked. There are several similarities. People who are interested in religion and church in your community will likely follow 3 or 4 steps similar to mine when I was looking for a new airline. Number 1, they will search for information. They'll search for information about churches and your church online first. They will examine different religion options. I ask you, how clear and accessible is your church's website? What is your presence on social media? Some churches have websites that look like they're stuck in the 1990s. The problem with the internet is that it's not neutral. What is not working in your favor affects you. Number 2, they'll ask their friends. They'll ask their friends about their experiences at the church. This is key, and it has dangers because people who had a bad experience, kind of like at a restaurant, will tell 16 people about it, but they will only share their good experiences with 2 people. That's interesting. In the era of social media, it's much easier for people to share the coldness they experience when they arrived at your church rather than positive experiences. I don't like it, but it is what it is. This means that in order to reach more people, you need to make more friends who aren't Christians. Number 3, they will join a small group or a church adjacent program before they attend your church. That's why we must provide other gatherings, smaller, outside of worship hour on the Sabbath. And number 4, depending on their generation, they may eventually attend a couple of different churches before making their decision. If this visit is with a friend, notice the trend, that will increase the probability that they will choose to continue attending. The age of people just showing up unaccompanied and staying is like part of the past. This weekend, visitors will come to your church and they will have other churches in mind while comparing yours to other religion or religious experiences. Who did you invite? How can you become acquainted with them so they return? Most people don't connect or leave a church. They connect and leave people. This means you. Let's get personal. Returning to my experience as a frequent flyer, when Delta sent me a promotion to choose them as my preferred airline, that brochure had an assumption. What was it? The airline assumed that I fly. All they had to do was design a promotional campaign to convince me that I should fly with them. That has an inherent problem. What about people who don't fly? Millions of people don't board planes, and millions more only do it occasionally. How do you think a promotional ad from Delta is received by people who don't fly? What about those who think flying causes a lot of stress, that airports have a lot of drama, or who have been mistreated by airlines or other passengers? They would probably throw the promotion in the trash. Those are the knowns, the ones who don't fly. They have no interest in flying because they've had bad experiences, or they don't see the point, or have never been exposed to the wonder of flying. According to a Gallup poll, trust in churches and religious institutions is at an all-time low of 31%. That should inform our strategy, approach, and interaction. The score of the game is not 0-0 right now. We are not starting on a level playing field, much less with the social advantage we used to have. We are down 2 goals to nothing to start the game. This means we can still win, but there's no time to waste in petty intra-squad quibbles. We need all hands on deck, all engaged, all working together. If you're an executive at Delta, the first step is not to try to convince people to join your frequent flyer program, but to help them understand the advantages of flying. How can we share with the knowns the powerful and transformative Adventist message? For that, we must start with the beginning of our movement. How did we get here? Our evangelism started the last century with certain realities. To begin with, a substantial portion of North America subscribed to the Christian faith or was at least associated with it. 2, people believed that the Bible was an important document containing divine truths. That's how things started. 3, many North Americans believed in the existence of God, that his son was named Jesus and that he came to die for our sins. Based on these realities, Adventist evangelism focused on presenting 20 or more doctrinal points to teach that there was a better option. Delta is better than United. Since we know you fly, why not choose the best possible experience? Since you believe there is a God, Christianity is the religion, why not choose the version of Christianity that adheres most closely to the Bible? That strategy worked well for us. Millions of people have come to know Jesus and his truth in that way. That world no longer exists. However, our church continues to use many of the same assumptions from the last century. The reality is that Christianity, especially among young people in North America, has taken a different path in the past 25 years. The change in the faith of people should be a cause for concern and consideration for us. Let's consider some of these changes below. Changes in faith practices. These statistics reflect all Christian religions, but it's essential to note that it also affects our church. Number 1, consistent church attendance has decreased. Number 2, regular Bible reading plummeted. Number 3, the percentage of young adults who don't attend any church has increased in the past 2 decades. Number 3, trust in the Bible has declined, and so has the trust for religious institutions. The prophecy that Paul shared with Timothy about difficult times in the last days is being fulfilled before our very eyes. In addition to these statistics, consider the reality of our church growth in North America. Your local church grows from 4 sources. 1, biological. That is, children who grow up in the church and decide to be baptized when they reach the appropriate age. The second way is through transfer. Members who move or immigrate from another country and request their transfers to your church. Number 3, prodigals. Individuals who were once Christians, even Adventists, who left but returned later. And number 4, conversion. People who were never affiliated with any religion, not Catholic, not Christian, never believed in God until the gospel reached them. The knowns largely belong to this 4th group. Examine the new members in your church. How many of them belong to the category number 4? Do you see the problem? The knowns are the ones who are growing the most, but we are baptizing them the least. You don't need a Harvard PhD to understand that this is a problem. As I said before, I share this data so that together we can seek solutions, not fall into depression. The problem is not that we are not working, but that we're not working according to Christ's method. And we have drifted away from teaching Christ's teachings. Jim Putman often says, Christ's method plus Christ's teaching equal Christ results. We don't see Christ results in our local congregations. When we don't see Christ results in our local congregations, the problem lies in either neglecting Christ's method or Christ's teachings. The good news is that both problems can be fixed. There is still time. My proposed solution, based on research, my personal experience as a local church pastor, and now an evangelist, is that we need to get personal. That will drive discipleship and growth in the foreseeable future. Let's get personal. What a nice chapter. Food for thought for sure. Let's go ahead and chime in here with some of the discussion questions. The first question here is, when you see the statistics concerning religious affiliation, what worries you more? Let's start there. Which one worries you more?
The statistics about religious affiliation, what worries us more?
Yeah.
I think the statistic about I think it's 75% of said high schoolers
Yeah.
leave
no, 75% of people, or basically when they graduate high school.
yeah
Yeah.
they leave. I think that's
Yeah.
significant. I didn't know it was that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Coming from you, Michael, not for anything, but I mean, you're young, right? So maybe you're viewing it from the perspective of a young person who didn't leave church. How old are you, Michael?
22.
22. So, I mean, after high school, you stuck around?
Yeah, I stuck around. Yeah.
You definitely fall into the age group of where the knowns majorly fall. But what made you kind of stick?
That's how I was raised, and I mean, I had to, yeah, I guess a lot of it was how I was raised, so it was really um set in my, I guess, personality or
Yeah.
in my beliefs. But also, I think what helped stayed was like getting to college and forming um the beliefs for myself
Hmm.
and working on that for myself. But yeah, I think that's
Yeah. What about you guys? Which one concerns you the most? You guys
I
have
think
kids.
it's kind of the same one, but there's a lot of things that concern me about uh, the religious affiliation statistics, as well as just the amount of time that is spent doing something other than practicing your faith or even trying to de-stress yourself,
Yeah.
because nowadays I think we're just so busy. Like it's unreal on how, like, if you think about it, if we stay on our phones until the literal minute we go to bed, we are never readying ourselves for rest. We are not resting. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just the youth, if you have no youth in a church, it will die physically.
Yeah.
Like as a church in a whole, like the whole religious organization, like the Catholics, Seventh Day Adventists, Methodists, if the youth leave and there are no more youth to take the place of the people retiring and passing away, it's a
But
scary statistic. It
one of
really
the
is.
questions is too is why are they leaving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the, and get to the root of that, and maybe we can.
And what gives me hope? Well,
Yeah.
like he said, he was 22 years old. That gives me hope
Yeah. Yeah. There's still
because he's a
some.
good dude.
You know, let me go back to what Lisa was saying just now. Um, I mean, even in this first chapter, I think part of the reason is we're trying some of the same methods, and just logically, we are how do I say, just like that example with the airlines. It's like we're sending marketing that
Mhm.
is saying like, hey, we're gonna you know help you understand the Bible. And to not misunderstand, it's not that we're not trying to make them understand the
Yeah.
Bible, but it's just that perhaps they're not interested. Kind of like that example, right? Maybe they're not flying, they're not really interested in that. And you know, I'm a pastor, and obviously I took some preaching classes, and I do remember in one of my preaching classes when I went up there, one of the critiques that I got as I was like preaching was because back in the day you could probably preach and say like different stories from the Bible and just assume that people know those,
Mhm.
um, but my professor said, hey, you can't assume that people know these stories because people are not reading the Bible like they used to, like, and so some of these, as crazy as it might sound to you that they're unfamiliar, they really are unfamiliar. And so back to that statistics that people are not reading the Bible, and that is the source of life, right? The Bible is the source right there. um, all right, let's move on to another question here. How would you rate the social media and online presence of your local church from 1 to 10? I get like a
3.
3. 3. We said 3 at the same time.
I don't know.
Yeah. And
So here's the thing, right? With social media, you have to change quickly.
yeah.
You have to change quickly because, just like anyone else, like there's YouTube best viewed videos are 8 minutes or less.
Yeah.
And you see in the last 10 years, you've seen all these major YouTubers like go from millions to almost billions of views, but their videos shortened. Their videos shortened from like 10, 15 minutes to no more than 8 minutes.
That's very valuable. This video is going to be more than that.
Mhm.
But that's a very good point. The content, those 8 minutes, I think, has to do with what you said earlier too, about like we're so busy. You know, another thing that's like really interesting is like courses. You know, courses come out and they always come out in bite sizes. Like you cover one chapter in little bite sizes, you know, like you never cover like the whole class or the whole thing, so that you can do it at your own pace. Yeah, gonna work on that, the social media thing. Let's get that
Here's something
fixed.
for you. Is there a Bible app that lets you scroll from top to bottom?
Oh wow, imagine.
Exactly. So my Bible app, you have to scroll from left to right, from page to page to page to page. But you know, people just drone out and they just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. It's a muscle memory thing, I think, you know.
I think
It,
you're onto
it's
something. I
I'm
don't
not
even.
sure if there's an app out there that allows you to do
We
it.
should not even. We should not publish this part, let someone steal your idea and do it ourselves, right? Very nice. Okay, so what strategies have you found helpful in sharing your faith with young people? For me, I feed them and I get personal. What about you guys?
Works. For me, it's just to tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. I'm a converted non-believer, right? And Lisa kind of convinced me. She was like, "Look, you know, back in the day," she's like, "there was a cell that scientists say created humanity. Just a bunch of cells, heat, whatever, here and there, created humanity. And we're made up of billions of those cells. And they formed a human at a precise way to where you would look the way you are, your bones would work the same, your heart would work the way it works." She's like, "It's almost impossible for us to come from nothing." And that's really what did it for me. I was like,
And there's so many patterns
how
throughout
complex of a machine we are, and people don't really realize that.
You know, that's
But I
really
break it.
interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, I break it down to young people by saying, look, if you just would read the Ten Commandments, life would be a simpler place. And if people practice the Ten Commandments, life would be a simpler place on earth, and we'd be nicer to people. We'd be considerate of others. It's very simple.
It's simple. It's like it can get deep, but it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
And when Keith Bowman came to preach, you know how his first messages were talking about like kind of the complexities of life and just kind of coming to the logical conclusion there must be a maker. As I was like surveying some of the people, particularly the younger crowd, those were the messages that resonated with them. So kind of what you're saying, you know, about knowing the truth. What strategies have you found unhelpful?
Let's see.
Yeah. Oh.
Hello.
Unhelpful? Oh, oh, wait, cool.
Yeah.
Unhelpful. I think I don't know how to say it. Being not genuine, but not yeah, I guess not genuine or being
Fake.
as open as
Oh.
you can be. Because I think I was talking to someone and they were saying one of the problems they have like getting to young people, like advertising, is just like they can tell what's genuine and what's fake because now it's like social media. You can kind of have a sense of what's genuine and what's not. So I think what's unhelpful is like coming across as like maybe ungenuine.
Disingenuous?
Yeah, disingenuous and I think people pick it up right away, and especially with like people now, younger people now, it's like they can catch that and turns them off immediately. So if you want to say something to them that you think is helpful, it's hard to, yeah. So getting
Yeah.
personal and being real is like a really helpful thing.
Yeah.
And I think with people nowadays, it's we're all a just big melting pot of people just walking around the streets, right? And I think everyone is looking for a purpose, and whatever sparks their interest, they're going to run at full speed. And if you get if you get the youth behind the church, and when I say the church, I mean pretty much Christianity, right? If you get the youth behind the church, there's no stopping Christianity, because
Mm.
times are going to get tougher. Gas is going to rise up. Housing is already insane. Everything's just going to keep rising. Right now, we've probably got 10 or 12 countries just warring with each other. I'm not an end times guy, but the writing is on the wall, so to speak.
Doomsday.
Yeah.
The writing is on the wall, so to speak. And I think at a certain point in time, not only the youth, but the old alike are going to see, they're going to be like, look, if they're on the fence, whether whatever they're practicing is real or is coming true or whatnot, I think it's going to hit them like a ton of bricks whenever it really is apparent that it is happening. If they pull a chocks on it and they're like, look, here, the end is coming. When the government starts to run for the hills, that's when you know we're in trouble. But I think if we prepare ourselves by, getting closer with God, understanding that He's readying for this, He's readying us for this.
Yeah.
I think the end result's going to be better for us, but there's two ways to run whenever danger is near. You're either going to run away from it or you're going to run towards it because you're strong and you know what the end result's going to be anyways. If you don't make it through, you will go and you risen up in the end times and you will go to heaven.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Some of the things that seem unhelpful to me or strategies, I think have to do with trying to trying to put programs. So the church is very program based instead of community or people based. And I think that the way we do church, just in general, right? Not just our church. I think our denomination in general, but even just Christianity in general. It's you come on the Sabbath, and then you sit down and you sing together and you listen to a sermon, and yeah, you may eat some food together, and that's it. Then you go back home and then you're with your family, and then you come back and you do it again. And that's pretty much the interaction that we have with each other. And I think that right there, that strategy, because it is a strategy, right? If we have to think about what the structure of our church is, that has to be a strategy, as well as worship. We are coming together to worship, but it's also we're putting something together in hopes that people will come. And then just to top it off, how many times can we say to people, hey, come to our church just on a normal day? Have we thought about that? We're usually telling people come to our church during like something special, like some sort of special program. Well, wouldn't it be amazing if every weekend, every program was good enough to like invite people because it's just that good or the connection is good? So yeah, very program based instead of people based. Even the kind of stuff that we're doing here. I mean, there's just a small group of us, right? But I think if there was other little small groups, and then if we kept getting together, we just become more intimate, and not just to do something like this, not just to pray or do religious activities, but just to do something fun or hang out or something that I think is going to create true friendship, true connection, true bond. And then like the book started, right? In the statistic, people are more likely to go to church with a friend, not by themselves, you know. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for chiming. I know that it was a little later than, or a little more time than expected. We read the introduction as well. So from here on out, I think it is going to be shorter. Let's see, chapter 2 is what, like 4 pages. Yeah. So not a big deal. So I think we should knock that out a little bit faster next time. So tomorrow, the last question, I didn't do it because I'm just hoping that you folks do it. And for those of you who are catching the replay right here, the last question is very simple. Just pick 1 to 3 people who are, let me read it exactly the way it is. Can you write the name of 1 to 3 individuals who you love, who are disconnected from church right now, and pray for them after reading each chapter of this book. So as we log off, just right there, maybe as a family, or Camille, you and Michael, and I'll do it on myself. Just if if you can't think of 3 immediately, maybe just pray for 1. But as the day passes tomorrow, if you think of somebody, just write it down in your book, and we'll be praying for those people. So with that being said, I'd like to close us off with a word of prayer. Father, thank you, because the statistics, they can be depressing, I guess, but we're choosing not to take that approach. We're choosing to just take the information and call it like it is. It is what it is. But then now we have kind of the advantage. We can see and execute and move forward in such a way that so as to win people. I really do think that the ultimate strategy to win people, it's always been the same, Jesus. And you gave it to us when you came here. We need to get close to people, and we need to bless people and connect with them. In a sense, I think we got, I don't want to say lucky, but we were fortunate, which kind of means the same thing, Lord, but for lack of words here, we were fortunate to start Adventism in an era where people kind of did fly or did agree that there was a God, that there's a Bible, and we kind of presented that way. But I really do pray for our people, for us to really be progressive and think forward and think logically about the decisions that we're making in terms of how we're going to reach people. To not just take an old method and just say that it's the right way just because it's been done for so much time, but really to take the Bible and use that as a foundation for fresh new ideas of how we can reach people. But I know that's difficult. Humans, we don't like change, and we're resistant to change. So please help us. And for the people that we are thinking of, these 1 to 3 people, Lord, please, we're starting to pray for them, and we just pray that you can connect us with them this year somehow, some way, so that we can bring them to you. In Jesus' name. Amen. All right.